mind is set, my grind is set, my heart on ice is cold. My mind is set, my grind is set, my heart on ice is cold. I'm only here to even a score, whoa. My mind is set, my grind is set, my heart on ice is cold. We down right now, but did it before, whoa. See from here we going up, made the call, I shown up. Now the game is sewn up, say my name is blown up. We up, 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 we up. See from here we going up, made the call, I shown up. Now the game is sewn up, say my name is blown up. We up, 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 we up.
What up, Night Nation, and welcome to the Knighted Ones podcast. It's your boy Roger hitting you up on the ones and twos. Welcome to the Knighted Ones, episode number 94. Almost 100, and as you can see, we're having some production problems because I'm producing because Nobra's not with us this week. However, as a reminder, we are the only podcast that features a former UCF national champion, a former UCF radio host, an ESPN analyst and hoops player, an infamous rapper, our resident influencer and IG star shooting the breeze talking UCF sports. Remember to like and follow us on YouTube, IG, and check out the 70-plus teams and conferences at the College Huddle and the Big 12 Huddle. So without further ado, let's go ahead and chat what we're talking about this week. One, we've got another verbal commit to recap this week, and Alan will take us through that. We've got some media day recap things, a funny cookie story. How about Retzlaff to UCF? Interesting. We'll talk about Terry Mohajir's extension, trophy game, NIL contracts, and we'll talk a little UCF hoops. As well as UCF baseball. All right, so without further ado, let me go ahead and bring in the crew, starting with the tallest man in all of sports podcasting for UCF, Ben Stout. How are you doing, Ben? Good to see you.
I'm doing well. What's up, guys? I'm happy to be back on the show and with you guys. And yeah, we got a few things to talk about this week, which is great.
Yeah, some baseball players earning their draft status this week. So we'll talk about that. Mr. Jimenez, as you have been talking about for ages, also got picked up in the draft. So we'll talk a little bit about that. But before we do all of that, let's go ahead and bring in Alan Levin to the stage. Alan, welcome back to the stage, my friend.
How's it going, guys? Good to be back.
Good to have you here. Let's go ahead and start with a hat hair flip. So go ahead. There it is. Flip the hair. That wasn't much of a flip, but okay, I guess I'll take it. And so before I bring our last but not least, but always last, Josh Lazar to the stage, I do have to give him a quick shout out and thank you for carrying the water last week like a champ and doing a great job bringing in the media day circus to you. So without further ado, last but not least, but always last, Josh Lazar.
Hello world, it's me again. And hey, it's not me alone. Isn't that wonderful? It's good to see some other faces because just this for an hour ain't cutting it for some people.
I know. I was just listening. I wasn't watching.
No, just kidding. yeah. And the time I needed you most.
Well, that's what happens when I'm producing, I guess. You never know what you're going to get.
It's possible. It's possible. No, I'm excited to be here and actually have a conversation with someone else.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited to have
this rolled it down last week, Josh.
Yeah, absolutely. While the rest of us bums did what we had to do. All right. So this week, let's go ahead and start back with recruits on campus or hopefully, getting to campus with another 2026 high school verbal commit. Alan, why don't you talk to us a little bit about Jaden Curtis and how big of a deal this actually was?
Yeah, it was another, I think, probably one of Frost's stronger pickups so far of the class. I know we haven't really had the on paper big time recruits like we did with Gus as much, but this is definitely one of the better players. Frost continues uncharacteristically, compared to his first tenure here, go outside of the state of Florida. So Curtis is actually from Mississippi. Is actually a top 50 recruit in the state of Mississippi. Someone that's really well regarded, has multiple SEC offers, including both of the teams in Mississippi and Mississippi State and Ole Miss. Seems to be, someone that definitely is on the radar though nationally. He has, I think, something around 21 total offers, maybe a little bit more. I think there's a total of 3 or 4 SEC offers. 6'3", 260 pounds, considered a 3-star, but he's a fairly high 3-star. Had some good stats last year, and really kind of got a little bit more on the national radar with his performance last year. So I think overall this is a good pickup. Our second defensive lineman of the class, obviously try to get as many defensive linemen as we can, get some depth there. It's a position where you need depth. But yeah, I mean, he was pretty solid last year, and overall had some offers from a couple other Power 5 schools like Minnesota, as well as I think it was Arkansas and a couple others. So looks to be a solid pickup for UCF. And what I thought was interesting, it's crazy. So now UCF has just out of a class of 15, only has 6 kids coming in from the Sunshine State, and the other 9 are all from completely different states. There's not one other state that is multiple. So there's guys from Georgia, Texas, Connecticut, now Mississippi. So Frost is really going all over the map to get guys. So overall, though, it looks to be like a solid pickup in UCF's 15th verbal commitment overall.
Yeah, like you said, some big names there with Mississippi State and Ole Miss. This guy, what's interesting is he's a Mississippi guy, right? He grew up in Oxford and, has some ties to Ole Miss as well. And so we were in it was basically down to the 2 of us. And, he ended up choosing us. So that's kind of a big deal. That we got into a recruiting battle like that, and he chose us. He's 6'3", 255 pounds as a defensive tackle. He's out of Ocean Springs, Mississippi, but he used to be in Oxford. Grew up as a Ole Miss fan. He's got another year under his belt to put a little bit more weight on, but good frame for a defensive tackle. And I think his star rating is going to go up as we kind of move throughout the season. And it's one of those things usually in the power levels is one power team will offer somebody and then their rating will skyrocket. Ben should know a little bit about that. That being said, excited for him. He seems to be, I've watched a lot of his tape. He's pretty aggressive and he takes up a lot of space, and he's got good speed, good hands, and he's got good vision. He's not a guy that's going to take a bad angle for a quarterback, etc. All right. So to tell us all about that is Nobra. Welcome to the stage, Nobra. Thank you for joining us after I already screwed up the intro, but welcome back.
Hey, I didn't realize we were live.
We're doing it live.
We're doing it live, baby.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, I'm just joining, eating my pasta. Let me.
I know we were like, okay.
Enjoying it. Catch you on the flip.
No. He's gonna come back and do the hair flip before he goes back to his pasta. All right, do the hair flip. Let's go. Thank you, Nobra.
Nobra wasn't the only one that thought we started at 9:30. So
we're not. This is behind the scenes stuff, but there's a reason that we remember that. I didn't even look at my phone until 8:55. I didn't know what you guys are talking about. I'm glad we're here now.
That was funny. I love it. But usually I have to pop when Nobra is eating something. He's always eating something during this time because of his schedule. And normally I have to pop him up on the screen when he's like taking a big bite of something. But this time he did it himself. So that works. All right. So going back to this, 6'3", 255. He's our 15th overall commit, number 42 ranked player in Mississippi. So, and he had multiple SEC offers. So he's our second defensive lineman of the class. and really excited to have him on board. That was a bigger deal than what I think most people know. And so I know Josh kind of talked us through the first day of media days. He talked about some of the players and what they were discussing. He talked about Scott Frost a little bit. Was there anything else for media days that you guys wanted to bring to the table and talk about? I have one thing, but it's not a big thing, so I'll let you guys go first.
I felt like, I mean, kind of just, I guess, classic when it comes to UCF, but I felt like the main story that was covered, at least maybe I won't say nationally, but kind of nationally and obviously regionally, but nationally, like some of the articles that I saw that came out and other outlets, whether it was 247 or On3 or Yahoo College Football, Yahoo Sports, their college football writers all kind of talked about basically Frost's comments about Nebraska, don't take the wrong job. That seemed to be the national story with the stuff he said about UCF, which actually took up most of the little 10-minute segment he had there on the center stage in Frisco. That was a footnote, what he was, talking about the team and the transition and all the, players that are, left and all the incoming players with over 60 something new faces on the team. It seemed to be like the national story was just, hey, don't take the wrong job, and some of the other comments that he had about Nebraska, which was a little frustrating, but obviously that's kind of what makes headlines and what people find interesting more so than a 4-8 UCF team last year.
Yeah, I think if anything, that kind of I'd rather that be the narrative coming into this season, because otherwise, if this was just Joe Schmo guy coming back and not a national storyline from that perspective, then there wouldn't be anybody talking about UCF football for this coming season. So for me, I'm good with it. I'm actually I think it's kind of hilarious that the Nebraska fans got all up in arms on Twitter and everywhere else once we started talking about it. So do I agree that do I agree that, we don't want this to be the entire storyline? Yes, but it is a storyline that's talking about UCF. Now, that being said, with all of that, when you have storylines like that, that means that there's going to be a brighter microscope, so to speak, on the Frost experience. And to your point, 68 new players on the roster so far. And remember, we still have another opportunity basically to bring on some new players through the transfer portal here as well. So that number could go up from 68. So it'll be real interesting to see how we put it all together. They talked about culture quite a bit. And as far as Scott was concerned, it was kind of funny. He was like, yeah, my first kid was born here. I was here for 2 years. He talked about the LA Rams a little bit. And the biggest thing that I liked from his takeaway from the LA Rams was how Sean McVay, they had started slow and, learning how to keep people organized, task oriented, and going in the same direction despite mistakes being made and motivated for the long haul for the season. So I think if anything that he learned from his LA Rams experience, I think that from a coaching perspective is probably the most valuable that he's going to get, because everybody, he said he knew, everybody knew their jobs, everybody was pulling in the same direction, and he course corrected and was the center and the rock for that coaching staff. So I'm hoping he takes those lessons here.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that that kind of caught my eye a little bit in his interview is it was on that note, Roger. He said he one of the things he learned is to not necessarily hire your friends, hire the best people for the job. I mean, he literally said, like, last time I was in this position, I just kind of hired people I knew, not necessarily, in the what he said, is the best people for the job. And then he went on to talk about Alex Grinch and how the two of them kind of clicked right away, but also, what caught his eye about Alex Grinch is the scheme that he runs, and he feels like it could be a good fit for his overall game plan. I thought that was interesting too, because, he went on to talk about how, Alex Grinch has a chip on his shoulder, right? Like, he's got something to prove, and it's not unlike, Scott Frost's, journey over the last 5 or 6 years, where he was the hottest name or one of the hottest names in college football. And then all of a sudden he had a little bit of a falling from grace and people are starting to doubt him. And I thought that was while relatively obvious, but still hearing it from Scott Frost's perspective was kind of a fresh thing to hear from him. I thought was interesting. And then on top of that, I think when anyone would ask him about his players, not necessarily a specific player in particular, but just about his relationship with the players, as you said, Roger, like kind of the culture that he's trying to start to build and all that. Like it seemed like that, and I know he was probably just happy to receive a UCF question instead of a Nebraska question, but by the same token, like those types of questions seem to really, you could see him light up a little bit. I mean, I think he is one of those ultimate player coaches, and I think his favorite part about being a head coach is truly the authentic relationships that he develops with the players, and you can kind of see those little glimmers as you watch an interview like that from Scott Frost.
Well, what's funny is, I don't know if you remember, but when he first got to UCF, his first press conference, right? Somebody, I think it was Bianchi, or somebody asked him, like, basically, why take the UCF job? And like, you're going from Oregon to UCF, and in the very first press conference, I think that chip on your shoulder kind of mentality. And as you mentioned with Grinch, he was at Washington State, was a rising star there, went to USC. He was at USC, didn't really do well there, and lost his job. And now he's on that same story. So if the leaders of the offense and the leader of the defense are motivated for that reason, I think that hopefully that will translate to the players catching on faster and being able to get into the systems faster, because they're going to be highly motivated, both of them. Scott's been dragged through the mud for a while, rightfully so, in some in some reasons. Heck, we even did that first while he was at Nebraska for a few reasons. And Grinch was the same way, right? Grinch had a lot of people singing his praises, and then all of a sudden he had his fall from grace at USC, and his first big time job as a head coach, and so now he has to earn that back. And I think that's the American story anyway. We always love someone who comes back. We'll love someone who beats the odds, etc. And so I'm hoping that takes that into there as well. The only other thing that I had from the media day was actually from one of my favorite coaches, Mike Gundy. He reminds me a lot of the Pirate, if you know who I'm talking about, in some of the things he says. And so he was at media days, and he was talking about one of the meetings that they had in Orlando, the Big 12 meetings that they had in Orlando. And he said Scott Frost was sitting there, and he was like side-eyeing him, and he was looking at Scott, and he had cut there was this big cookie. It was like this big and like this thick. So he cuts it a slice off and starts eating the slice. Then he cuts another slice off and starts eating the next slice. And then the final slice, he eats that cookie too. And he's like, I've never seen a head coach do something like that. He's like, well, just be like the rest of us and just eat the whole thing. Don't kid yourself. And I think we've all done that once or twice, but it just shows the human interactions that the coaches have at these things. So I thought that was pretty funny. Okay, so the next thing we have on here is UCF projecting, and Alan, I think you had this on here, UCF projected to be dead last by Tulsa World, because as we told you, there was not a Big 12 media poll this go around. So yeah, so tell us a little bit about that and why we should care about Tulsa World. The last time I remember hearing them was when we were in Conference USA and we were playing the AAC when we were playing Tulsa. That's the last time they've been relevant as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, it wasn't so much that it was Tulsa World, right? So let me clarify. So Tulsa World kind of just, because the Big 12 wasn't doing their Big 12 media rankings, Tulsa World took it upon themselves to go actually out to those writers from the different schools within the Big 12. So it's not just like the opinion of like Tulsa World employees. It's actually, could be whoever's normally in the media pool, Kansas State writers, Kansas writers, all that. They actually, contacted all of them and put together their own Big 12 media pool because the Big 12 didn't do it this year. So they just happened to actually, make an effort and go do something and grab, people that are always watching the Big 12 and are covering the Big 12. So I think it's actually a fairly legitimate poll because it's what we'd normally look at, same writers, same outlets. But yeah, UCF was not super surprisingly projected last. I'll talk about this in my segment, but that doesn't quite jive with what the S&P rankings are saying. So, but yeah, and it's not just Tulsa World and those writers. It's also, if you look at a lot of things, ESPN, CBS, all the college football coverage pretty much has UCF as a bottom 3, bottom 4 team in the Big 12 for the most part. So not super surprising, but I kind of always say I think UCF does a little better under the radar, not with a ton of expectations. And, after going 4-8 and like you said, Roger, bringing in 68 new players, I don't think it's a massive surprise that people are, kind of counting us out.
Yeah. And you mentioned the SP, right? SP. Bill Connolly did his projections and he brought out his projections and he said on his stats he was looking at, we were 61st or projecting for 61st in SP plus. Bill's projecting 5.7 average wins. So that gets us right to that bowl season that we were talking about, which was, the top of our expectations, and 3.4 wins in the Big 12. So that means if one goes one way or the other, that's the big difference there. So it'll be interesting to see, but I've seen as many, when you look at the metrics, and it's not just people, the metrics have all been saying 6 wins. So yeah, apparently I just ruined Alan's
not all of it. Not all of it.
I guess I had this in here before you put that in there, so I'm just saying.
Well, no, I have other stuff from it, so it's fine. But
well, I'll just jump in real quick. I mean, there's some on ESPN.com talking about the Big 12, and there's something called a continuity table. Just to
oh crap, this is my segment too.
Oh, is this on this too? All right, geez. Go ahead.
If we just go into it now,
I'm coming in stealing all the thunder.
If we go into it now, then I just won't do my thing this week.
Well, why don't you just do? Let's do this. We'll do your oxymoronic stat of the week early, so we can fully talk about this.
Oh, really? Yeah, I didn't realize this was part of your stat. My bad, man.
No worries.
This is no way I could have known, but
hold on. Let me tee it up properly. So this is Ben's oxymoronic stat of the week with Alan. Go ahead, Alan.
So yes, as Roger and Ben both alluded to already, Bill Connolly of ESPN did have a great write-up on the Big 12, where he uses a lot of stats and figures. Some of it is the returning production score, as well as the projections from the S&P Plus heading into 2025, which is based off of some stuff from 2024, plus obviously returning production. But UCF has just 47% of its returning production from last year, which is dead last or least amount in the conference, with only 47% of its offensive production returning and 48% of its defensive production returning. All in all, UCF's returning players from last year's roster account for just 46 total starts from last year. So for context, Arizona State, which has the most returning production in the Big 12, has 221 total starts returning by the players that are coming back. So that's 4 times the amount compared to UCF. However, UCF is in the top half of the conference at number 7 when you count both players from last year's team and then incoming transfers. Overall account for 86 starts between the both of them. So there definitely is some experience on the team. I mean, they're number 7 in a 16-person conference there. So obviously those are new players for UCF, and we'll have to gel with the system and all that. But there is definitely experience of guys that have started on their previous stops. And then, as kind of Ben and Roger said, I had in here that According to SP projections, we are actually projected to go 6-6 with 3 conference wins. So they have us at 5.7. Wins. So I rounded up. So with our offense being 52nd in the country as a projection, and the defense being 62nd. So really right in the middle of the pack, which would actually be a lot higher than most, outlets, that are just doing their own projections, not really off of numbers. Just a general opinion, has us more so in the bottom part of the country and definitely at the bottom of the Big 12. But if we end up being 6-6 and making a bowl win, we'll be somewhere around the middle of the pack. And by most accounts, would be a success when you compare. That would be 2 more wins than last year's team produced.
Well, I mean, we talked about this a few times, right? So, number one, the first 2 games in, right? We've got those. I think North Carolina's winnable too for a lot of different reasons.
At home,
yeah. Not just because it's at home, but because I think Bill Belichick's probably going to be in worse shape than we are as far as getting his system installed, and he had a bunch of roster turnover as well. So I think that 6-win season is achievable, right? Because that means that we only win 3 games the rest of the way. So I hope so. Everybody's had us between 4 and 6, but every metric has had us between 5 and 6 wins projected. Now, the only thing I will say about that is if you've been watching the show for a while, and when Ben and I were on with Andrew, we used to pull in the ESPN FPI all the time and looked at what the win percentages were there, and they always had us winning. And under the Gus Bus years, it wasn't that great of a stats predictor. So I'm still kind of bullish, and I know it's the beginning of the season, and I know we've got to figure out the quarterback, and we've got to get snaps, and we've got to get the system in play. But I think we have enough time with the teams that we're playing to get them going, right? So
yeah.
Did you guys? What do you guys think? I mean, Ben, what are you thinking about this? Josh, what about you? All right. No.
Well, I wanted to give Josh. I think both of us.
No, it's all
I
good.
started with Ben, so that usually means you go first. Because remember, Josh is last, but not least, but always last.
I think it's just so. I think what's happening maybe sooner in basketball for us in particular, or any school that loses a head coach and has the turnover in that department, it just feels like no one knows what this UCF team can be this year. I mean, including us, the guys that follow it closely, but certainly the national writers outside of the Orlando area that are trying their best to understand what UCF is all about. But honestly, just like the rest of us, have no idea what they could be this season. It's obviously a complete turnover of the roster. We are probably our most exciting returners either didn't play at all last year, like John Walker, or a guy in Miles Montgomery that we project as being a exciting player for us, but we don't know for sure.
Well, Miles played last year and did really well. All the snaps that he got.
Well, I was just trying to say that he didn't play. He wasn't the star of the offense. It's not like last season where we could all point to RJ Harvey as like the guy, right? Like we had some others as well, but this season it's just a lot of unknowns. I think that that's what I was trying to say, Roger, is that like we saw in the amount of time that Miles Montgomery got, we saw some great things, and we're hoping that he becomes and takes a huge step forward in a larger role this season. But that's just one example of a player that we could probably point to and be like, he's going to be an exciting piece for us this year. Everyone else is a little bit even further of a projection, and I think that's the reason why you see us in the bottom of these preseason polls, which we always, up until, the point where we were, leading in the preseason poll in our last few years in the American, like we never cared about preseason polls until we're on top. Just like star rankings and recruiting and everything else. Like if we don't,
I think you're right. Well, I know you're right, Ben. You're absolutely right. But I will also say that I do think that it's different now because we are in the Big 12. And, before, if you're in the AAC, if you go undefeated, other than the year Cincinnati did it and made it to the playoff, you weren't going to make it to the playoff, right?
Everything else had to fall in place.
Yeah, there was a ceiling, an artificial ceiling in place.
Sure.
Well, now we're in the Big 12. So it's more important for us now for those preseason polls, just for the starting position. It's like in NASCAR or F1 or anything else. If you start at the back of the pack, it's a lot harder to get to the front, right? So I think,
we saw that with BYU last year. I mean, like they stumbled a little bit down the stretch, but still, like it was like that was their kind of bugaboo, right? They didn't start in the right pole position, as you were talking about. Like, and so yes, it matters for that reason. But I think any UCF fan who is, even for a UCF fan, somewhat realistic, I think, we're probably not as concerned about this particular year's preseason polls because what we're seeing is the foundation building for the future with the Frost era. That's what we want to see more than anything else. And bowl eligible would be a result this year that I think most UCF fans would be happy with, as long as they saw the right style that they're looking for and the right building of that foundation for the future. So I think that's kind of the importance of, or lack thereof, of the preseason polls. And I guess I want to ask all three of you, whoever wants to comment on it, as people who probably follow it a little bit more than me, but is there an opinion, or maybe you've seen an article out there? Why didn't the Big 12 media days do a preseason poll? It seems like that's so common, and it's kind of weird that they didn't do it. And forgive me for not knowing that, but I figured I'd ask that because I may not be the only one.
Yeah, that's the exact reason, because Arizona State went from where they were in the preseason poll and maybe didn't get as much zhuzh, if you want. or if you will, because they were supposed to be 14th. If we're
they were coming off of a 3 and whatever season, right?
Same. So like, imagine, and this kind of loops into both. Imagine this team gels, and
hold on, we've got to close our eyes first, and then
hold on, close our eyes and imagine the team gels. No one gets hurt. People are actually playing for each other and together. And somehow that, combined with a scheme that actually gets perhaps implemented appropriately with new things that haven't been done in Frost's past, allows us to get to like 5-0, 6-0.
Now open your eyes, and you're talking about.
Open my eyes, and I'm like, well, if that happens, but the writer said we should be 16th out of 16. That's the reason why, because they don't want to put any undue, they don't want to influence any way that would keep any of our teams shut out, because the reality is, in this conference, this is not basically like Alabama and I would say LSU, but it's not really LSU anymore. Like, it's not Alabama, Tennessee, blah blah blah. It's not 14. It's not Ohio State, Michigan, and maybe another team every so often if they like Wisconsin or whatever.
Well, Scott Frost said that in his presser. I mean,
that's the thing.
Anybody can win.
Correct. So if everyone can win, what does ranking do other than give people biases they don't need? So I feel like I don't know if they've said that's the reason, but I think I've heard that is that reason.
It was also, I mean, it's what you said, but it wasn't just Arizona State that they got wrong. I mean, essentially the whole top of the Big 12 pretty much for the most part was projected at the bottom. The only one they got like semi right was like, Kansas State, who actually projected to win, but they still, I think, was the only one that they projected in the top of the top 5 that actually was even bowl eligible. So they were just way off across the board. So I don't know if it was like an embarrassment thing, but it wasn't just ASU, which was obviously the most egregious one, but the rest of the projections were all wrong too, from Kansas State all the way down.
And that's kind of scary, right? Because we play all those teams that were listed as the top last season, this season. So it'll be super interesting to see how that goes. The biggest thing that I took away that surprised me, Alan, from what you said in your oxymoronic stat of the week, was that the defense was listed lower than the offense, and it was 60. I think you said 66 or 67 as far as rankings go. I feel like, and I still feel like, this strength, especially behind the defensive line and what we're bringing back there with John Walker and our ends, I think that we have a stronger defense than we have an offense as the rosters stand right now. We'll go into more details as we approach a season, right? So we don't want to go into too much here, but ultimately, I feel like the defense is the stronger component coming back from a talent perspective than the offense is, because there's just so many unknowns on the offense. We lose RJ Harvey, who was our ball carrier there. I do think Miles Montgomery will be able to pick up. Tavion Swint, actually, in I think it was an ESPN article recently, they listed out the top freshmen in the country, and they're expecting Tavion Swint to be one of the top freshmen in the entire country, which is interesting because I don't think he'll get very many carries as a freshman, but certainly wouldn't have under Gus. But, I think that running back is stacked. We've got a few good QBs that we don't know what they're going to be. And speaking of QBs, there is the possibility that there was an article that came out that said Mr. Retzlaff, who was leaving BYU, has the possibility of and is considering UCF as a destination. Do I think he's going to come here? No, but he may be he's obviously a little tarnished based on what we talked about a couple of weeks ago. As far as his legal troubles that were dropped, right? Mm-hmm. So do I want him here? Personally, no. I don't think you need a guy like that around the program. I think we build with what we have. But what do you guys think about bringing someone like him into the mix as far as QB is concerned?
Yeah, I feel like no. I mean, we already have a 3-man, quarterback race, and we have some young guys on the team. I mean, I feel like that's more of a move if, kind of like what the KJ move was supposed to be last year. It's something that was supposedly get you over the top. You have a bona fide starter who obviously had a really, really strong season last year for a BYU team that was at the top of the conference and started out the year 9-0, I think, or 10-0, whatever it was. So for a team like this, even if he didn't have the legal trouble or the reputation that he now has, I don't know if it's the right move for this type of team in a rebuilding year. And I'm not sure. I mean, he's probably at this point looking for a spot anywhere that will maybe take him, given what happened. But given what did happen and the spot that UCF is in, I just don't think it's necessary. And I don't think we want a guy like that on a team that's trying to now build chemistry and, have good feelings and things like that, for a guy that just got accused of something extremely serious and horrible. I don't think we want that type of attention.
And I think the last thing you said is probably the most important. It's the continuity and the team building, right? It's not like Frost is getting fired next year, right? He has 2, 3, maybe 3, 4 years. It isn't like we have these overreaching expectations this year, and maybe he is the baller that he is going to be. I just don't feel like if it happens, it happens, and there might be something else we don't know. But the fit is what has been going on this summer. It's why all these things are happening. I feel like that is more important right now than a potential quick fix. I might be wrong. We might see him, but I feel like let me be clear. That doesn't mean if he ends up coming onto our team that we're just throwing everything out the window. There might be a very, very good reason for that. I just feel like the process, trust the process. And I don't think bringing someone in like 6 weeks before the first game is really trusting the process from a QB perspective.
Well, nobody's getting all the reps yet either, so it really doesn't matter from that perspective. True. I think the biggest thing for me is just that, he was a big name last year because of BYU, but BYU had a strong running game and a really good defense, and that's really what put them over the top. Retzlaff, if you look at his from statistical categories, he's in the bottom half of the Big 12 in QBR, et cetera. So I think he's overhyped based on what was around him. He has good wheels. He had made some good decisions, but I think he's overhyped, and I just don't see value in bringing someone like that. But you still entertain it. I mean, for the very least, for the value from a media perspective and people talking about you still want to entertain something like that. But to me, no, I would not want him on this team. Ben?
Yeah, I don't see Scott Frost wanting any of that media value that you hinted at. I mean, obviously guys like us and certainly the rest of the Central Florida media would probably love the story, but I think one of the words that beyond chemistry that Alan said that I agree with as well is necessary. Like, I just don't feel like this is a necessary move at this point. Again, the 3 players that are battling for the starting spot, and I really do feel like 6 weeks out, it's a true 3-way battle. Like, we don't know exactly who's gonna emerge. I mean, obviously, we all have kind of our favorites or the guys that we think are going to wind up ahead. But I do feel like it is a 3-way battle, and I don't know if you necessarily need to bring a guy like Razlev in there to even disrupt that QB competition and any rapport that those 3 have built with the team that's out there right now. So I don't see it as necessary. That's the word that I kind of keep clinging to. And if it happens, it happens. I mean, we're kind of getting used to players coming in at the last minute or in and out at the last minute for that matter. And that next window is going to be no different. So we'll have to see what happens. But it's not one that I would really, if it did happen, that I would be necessarily celebrating like we've got somebody here that can make a difference this year. I just don't really see that being the case.
Okay. Going back to, speaking a little bit more about stats, since we've kind of been talking about that in off-season stats, Sporting News came out with an article that said Scott Frost is ranked as the 15th best coach in the league and 68th overall in college football. So, again, to me, this is just conjecture. Nobody knows what Scott Frost is going to do, and I'm okay. I'm okay with them doing that because he does have a lot of things stacked against him, right? Number one, roster turnover with 68 new faces that he's having to deal with. 2, he's having to install a new system with those new faces that have not been in anything similar. 3, he's got an open QB battle going into the off season or going into the season. And 4, everybody's got a bad taste in their mouth from what he's done at Nebraska. Do I think he's the 15th best coach in the league and 68th overall in college football? No, I don't think he's that low. I think there's more people that are on the hot seat than Scott Frost right now. So I don't think that's a fair, how should I say this? That's a fair assessment. But then again, there's nothing to assess him on. And on top of that, we've got, if anything, it builds that underdog story, which I'm perfectly fine with.
Yeah, I really feel like the blessing in disguise, if you will. I think that this, if you want bulletin board material, you have it. Not one writer thinks you're going to do anything. Who putting the chips on the shoulder for a UCF team is usually a good thing. If Trey was here, he could probably tell you more about that very directly. And I know he has in previous podcasts, but that chip on the shoulder thing can be real. And I hope we take that and leverage it, because do I think we're the 16th best team in this conference? No. But none of us know where this is going to go. Let's just be real. We just don't. There's too much up in the air.
Mm-hmm.
Alan, did you have anything to add to that?
No, I agree. I mean, it's there's so much unknown with the roster, the amount of turnover, the brand new coaching staff, and it's like you said, Roger. I mean, yeah, there's definitely a sour taste in people's mouth because of his tenure at Nebraska. He had 15 total wins in nearly 5 years, and a lot of other things that seemed to happen off the field. So, but seems like he's on the redemption path. Obviously, being under championship organization and the Rams and McVay and. Obviously really wanting to be here and getting that second chance. Obviously the motivation factor I think is very, very high. So no, I don't think he's the 15th best coach, but at the end of the day, it's kind of like he's starting over and he's unproven again, despite him having a very successful 2-year stint at UCF. I mean, the big knock on him is like when you look at the overall record over the course of 7 years with, Nebraska and UCF combined, it's not good. He really only had actually only one winning season in his whole career. So I think there's some fair criticism, but I think I think UCF is a really good fit for him. So he has a much better chance of success than he does out in Nebraska. But yeah, there's just too many unknowns to really kind of lean one way or the other right now.
Ben,
yeah, I mean, just on paper, I mean, it's you just said it, Al. I mean, it's a one winning season in his entire head coaching career, right? Like, so, I mean, it happened to be a spectacular winning season, one that he had no losses in, and obviously, has been able to sustain him through the tough times in Nebraska to land a head coaching job back here at UCF, and so. I think, though, we know that reality is true, that on paper, he hasn't had the results that he's hoping for. And outside of 2017, what UCF fans are hoping for the future. And so I think this is the one place where he's got the runway to build, towards that again. And when I say that, I don't necessarily mean undefeated, but I mean a success on a national scale. Again, and I think that we're willing to, give him that runway to do it, and it's kind of like what I do like, and we've been talking about it since Scott Frost was hired again here on this podcast and individually or whatever. We've been talking about how it kind of does feel good to be that kind of little engine that could again, that kind of like everybody's doubting us and kind of having that mentality of possibly coming out of nowhere, even though we are in a power conference again. Whereas, what he built starting in 2017 and was continued on with Heupel going undefeated the next year, is we weren't surprising anybody anymore. So why not us? Why not now? Is kind of fun to have back in the mindset.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing you said there was build, right? So that's the thing, and we just I think most UCF fans understand that, but the national media is going to take their shots while they can. All right. Speaking about the leadership for UCF athletics, let's talk a little bit about Terry Mohajir. Timo looks like he's getting an extension through 2029 to be our AD. He's been named for several different openings that he was vying for. South Carolina was one. Kansas was another. Several others. What do you guys think about this? Like we've had, I don't know, he got here in 2022, 2021, I think, right? So we've had 6 years of Timo. So, his major accomplishments getting us into the Big 12, but he didn't really do that. That momentum was kind of built, but he did shepherd us to the Big 12. But he also, his other major accomplishment was obviously getting us the $90 million to build the tower. And if you haven't been by campus lately, they're making a lot of progress. And when you see it, you really understand what the scale of this expansion is going to be now that, a lot of the metal structure is up and some concrete has been poured and all of that other stuff. So that's a big win for him. Other than that, the big knock on him has been the performance of the teams since they've gone into the Big 12. Other than, the Olympic sports teams that we've talked about, even our volleyball team with Todd Dagenet leaving, didn't do as well as they historically have. So how much of that is his leadership? How much of that is transitioning to a tougher conference with a higher level of budgets and people? Because one thing people forget, I brought this up a couple weeks ago. When we were in the AAC, we were the top budget in the AAC as far as sports was concerned. That's no longer the case. So 3 questions for you. Is it Timo's leadership, Terry Mohajer's leadership? Do you think the juice is worth the squeeze to extend him to 29? And would you rather go to the open market for another AD or stick with Terry Mohajer for a few more years? So we're in 2025. 2029 is looming. What do you guys think?
I think the more that I think of it, the more there's a you don't know what you got till it's gone type of thing here.
Oh, boy.
I will say this. There are things that I have not liked in the past. The 2-for-1s with UF, the ideology of maybe we're not at the same level.
Well, it's not even that. It's constantly pounding that. Yes, I know we need to drive revenue dollars, right? But the way Danny White did that is we're building positivity versus, hey, we're strapped for cash and that's why we're not competing. I don't like that messaging from a CEO of the UCF Sports. And
I agree. I agree. And I still the more I think of it, the more I think, yes, and how much better is the next person at $1 million a year or 1.2 at the end of the contract? And I truth be told, I don't know the answer.
More than that now, though.
We can, but would we? And there's this, to me, there's a lot of these different interesting aspects, the NIL and 20 million a year, the where we are at and getting full funding, having to pay more people in different ways. And there's just to me, there's a lot of pieces on that chessboard. And the move we're trying to make is, I should say Castle because of the Knights, but the move we're trying to make is to get into the next conference or the next alignment and be on the top of minds of people. And that's a 2030 type of conversation.
And so do you believe that Terry Mohajer can do that?
The question is whether stability is more important now. To me, is stability more important now than betting on what might be next? And Dr. Cartwright has decided that stability is the necessary move. And look, I would say that I can see that ideology. I can completely. There's a lot of stuff we don't know, but I can see that ideology. Making a move now that would be of a Keith Tribble level higher.
Josh,
let's be real. If it misses, this is not the time to miss. I'm not saying it's not my decision.
That's not where I was going with it. What I was going to say was he's already contracted through 2027.
Yeah,
right? That happened last year. So this is effectively a 2-year extension to get him to stop looking,
to get towards the 2030 media rebuy and renegotiation. So this, to me, this is the same as adding on that extra year every year, so you have an ongoing 4 or 5 year contract when it mattered that you had the same coach for 4 or 5 years. Not that it does anymore. To me, this is a stability play and a shrewd negotiation tactic from Terry Mohajer's team. I've been up for this is sometimes why people try to get their names in other coaching searches to try to negotiate more funding and more a longer extension of a contract like this. But I feel like the overall play is stability until the next immediate move, which might make the next realignment jump. And truth be told, if Scott Frost does what we expect him to, who knows? Like, if he does what we have seen before, and to Ben's point, we're not talking undefeated, but national relevance again. He's done his job, relatively speaking. The money is worthwhile. The thing is the wins on the field, and I do agree that the messaging is. I'd prefer more chip on the shoulder. We're building, we're driving, we're growing. Than we don't have a lot of money, so spend more. I do agree with that, but
so Josh,
that's my thoughts. Like, I really feel like this is just, we want stability, and we're not going to bet on anyone else.
So then what are your thoughts to the other two questions, which is, do you think he's the right person to lead us? And that's the short yes or no answer. Do you think he's the right guy to lead us?
I can't do a short yes or no because we have the unknown. I
We
can't, because there's the unknown on the other side. Is Danny White coming back? Because if he is, yes, let's get Danny. But the reality is he's not, and it's not like Danny White didn't have things that rub people the wrong way too. It was just in the middle of.
But we're not comparing Danny White. It's just whether this is the right guy based on the last 4 or 5 years that he's been in the leadership position. Is he trending the right way? Because I can tell you this right now. When you hire a CEO is looked at for a 5-year vision. Has that 5-year vision, has he contributed enough outside of getting the $90 million from the TDT, which supposedly that had been something that was worked on before, but had never gotten, he did bring it across the finish line. So, outside of that, has he done enough, especially when it comes to his decisions, his coaching decisions, et cetera? Yes or no? Is he the right person to lead us into the future? Or would this be the time to look, because that still gives you some time to figure that out before you get to that next?
I'll answer with 2 things. 1, Dr. Cartwright thinks so. 2, if you're a CEO, bringing in money is almost, and it's not a small organization, but bringing in money is really, 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 really big. So I would say, yeah.
Okay,
that's what I say.
That's Josh's opinion. Alan, what do you think? TMO, yes or no? Ooh, that's a good slogan.
That should be that's the crawl now.
I know a lot of people I don't like him. I mean, it's hard when he is the person that follows up Danny White, who I think is widely considered the best AD in school history, or one of them, I guess. But I don't know. I know his accomplishments, I think, financially have been pretty strong. I guess on the field performance, though, is what fans ultimately care about, and what can bring in more money and more excitement and all that stuff. And there just hasn't been a lot of it. I think it coincides with going to the Big 12, like you said, and would a different AD potentially have had more success by hiring better coaches or the right coaches? Maybe, but I think he's making the Gus Malzahn hire at the time. I think you can look back and say, obviously, and say, oh, no, it was wrong hire. But at the time, it looked right, and then started off strong with that first year and everything. And he brought a lot of excitement to the school in many different ways. So this, to me, the Frost hire feels like his biggest hire to date. And obviously, he wasn't the person that brought in Johnny Dawkins and all this. So there's a lot of things there. So I still, as much as he's been here for quite some time, like half a decade, I still think the jury's still out on him. I think there's a lot to prove with this, if he nails this Frost hire and maybe some other future ones. So I'm okay. And I agree with Josh, though. I like the consistency factor. I mean, how many ADs and head coaches have we had for football and, just in general over the years, where I think there is something to stability and consistency. And it's not like he's not getting interviews at other places, whether it was Maryland or, Kansas and all that. So he's, not like someone that nobody wants, or, that, we're bidding against.
He's getting interviews, but he's not landing the jobs. So how many times do you go interview and you don't land the job?
Yeah, I don't know, so I guess it's, yeah. I mean, it's a fair point, but guess we'll see. I kind of like the stability factor, though. So I'm okay with keeping. I'm not like over the moon for him, but I think I don't think he's like, we have to fire him or get rid of him right now.
All right, so that's 2 yeses. Ben?
I think Terry's biggest issue, which I'm having trouble getting out right now, is just communication overall. Like I think his choosing his words correctly, whether it be in an interview setting or a press conference, or of course with some of the missteps that we've seen in emails or whatever it may be, his communication, whether it be his style or just the way he chooses his words wisely or unwisely, gets him in trouble. And I think it has this level of reserve from the fan base. Like we're a little bit like, is this guy sophisticated enough to take us to the next level? And I think that's one of the things for me. I've talked about that a decent amount on this show. I've used that word a decent amount on this show, is just his level of sophistication to like really step us up to play with the big boys in a big time conference. Is it there? Is he buttoned up enough? And what's interesting about this contract, I guess, and maybe you already said this, Roger, and I just didn't catch it, but it seems like they're just basically exercising something that's been in his contract for since the beginning. They basically had a 2-year extension, like option, I guess, that the school has. That was built in his contract from the very beginning, that the school is now exercising for these final 2 years.
They're committing to 4, whereas before they were adding 2 at a time. So it is a little bit of a step up, and it's different. Right? So
so it's a little separate thing from his original contract, is what you're saying. Okay.
Yeah, we're committing.
So they've already exercised the option, is what you're saying, and now this is 2 more. Okay. So I didn't quite get that part, but now I get it. Yeah, I mean, I think that's part of it. I think it's the kind of the level of sophistication that we see sometimes is lacking. And it kind of makes you a little bit weary on how well we can sustain or grow as a university, as we're trying to grow this athletic department on a national stage. Because let's be honest, I think it's because we're comparing him to a guy that always seemed to understand what to say. Like he always understood the moment, understood the next move, maybe the move after that. If you ever talked with Danny White, I mean, you would just leave that conversation and be like, man, that guy's sharp. Like that's just the way Danny White is. And it's hard to follow that when you're a guy that, that is just the kind of style of Terry Mahajer. It's just a little bit hard act to follow when you're following up somebody who, is just so buttoned up and so sophisticated. But it is tough to answer, and I don't want to go full on Josh mode here, where he kind of said, I don't know what other options we have. And I know that I've been that way when it comes to talking about Johnny Dawkins, but I will, if you're forcing me to answer the question, I think no. I think we probably could, find someone else out there that would elevate us beyond where we're going to be at 2029. But the only way I would know that for sure is if I actually had a crystal ball, which I wouldn't be doing everything that I'm doing in my career right now if I had a crystal ball and I could tell the future. So,
so for me, guys, pulling a few themes out of that conversation for you, and then I'll give you my quick thought, right? One, I look at this as this is a strategic commitment, right? So we're saying he's our guy through 2029, where a lot of poop is about to hit the fan, right? At that time in 2030, the ACC is going to have a major reckoning, right? It probably won't survive, if we're being honest. There's going to be a media rights deal that's coming up at that time. Do I think Terry was hamstrung with our transition to the Big 12 because we got partial shares and because we still had to pay the AC? Yeah, absolutely. He had to pull some strings behind the screen to keep us afloat. So from that perspective, I think he's okay. I think as a visionary, as a communicator, as someone who can elevate the brand, I don't think he's that guy. I don't think he ever will be that guy. And the other part of it too, we hired him at the time that we did because he was a former committee member, and he didn't help us at all with the committee, right? And to me, that was almost anti-UCF. That was a fireable offense to me. If you're just going to go out there and say, hey, we're okay with the playoff and everything's fine and whatever, right? We've spent this entire 20 minutes talking about Scott Frost and having a chip on our shoulder and all that other stuff, right? That's not this guy. He's a guy who operates within the system. He's open for the next big payday, and I don't think he's sophisticated enough from a leadership standpoint, and I don't think he has us going the right direction from a communication standpoint, which is the most important thing. And then lastly, I don't think we are going in the right direction from a coaching standpoint at the moment. I'm hoping Scott Frost walks out, but that's a giant gamble for UCF, right? I want to believe. Our head men's basketball program, I know we said this all along, we were going to keep Johnny for a couple of years going into the Big 12 because of the budget. Well, that's gone now. We get to make decisions, big boy decisions now, and we've chosen to let it happen, right? I do think we've made some decisions in investing in football and in basketball operations, but there's not going to be enough in basketball. Has he brought money to the table? Yes. Would the TDT be attainable for us without Terry Mohajir? Yes. I don't think he was instrumental to that. Do I think he put together a presentation? Yeah. Did he, work the room before we got to the TDT? Yeah. But I think any other AD could do that too. And UCF was already talking about it a few times. So to your question, Ben, do I think he's the hire for our future that's going to take us to the next level? No, I don't. I don't think that's Terry Mohajir. I think it's good enough, and stability is one thing, but sometimes when you're kind of, mediocre, mediocre isn't enough, because we're going to be in another battle in 5 years to keep UCF relevant and in the dollar. So for me, short answer, no. Eric Edwards brought up some comments too. Talks about some of the decisions, the communication about the football tickets. That strategy was terrible. It pissed off a lot of people. The whole thing about the rollout of the basketball program, that's terrible. Being able to articulate a vision other than we need more money, that's been terrible. I don't see any leadership from Terry Mohajir that gives me the confidence in him. And I don't mean to sound like I'm bagging the guy. I'm just saying, and it has nothing to do with Danny White. We've had other visionary ADs. Heck, even Steve Sloan, who got fired from here for doing some unsavory things with some money. We wouldn't have an on-campus stadium, and we wouldn't have had George O'Leary if it wasn't for Steve Sloan, right? So there's been other visionary people that are there. And I'm looking for a visionary leader as a CEO, because his whole job is vision. You have a CFO, and you have those other people to take care of the finances. Vision, image, and face of the franchise. And Terry Mohajir, in my opinion, he's not completely terrible, but he doesn't represent us well and is not the guy to take us in the future. So that's how I feel about that. And I'm going to drop my mic and get off my soapbox, because I know I sound terrible, but that's how I look at it.
One of the things
I was going to say,
go ahead.
I was going to do it one more time to make it a third. You're not wrong. This is and this is the dichotomy of it, is that it can be this polarizing, because you can make really good arguments that this is a horrible decision to extend his tenure. And you can make the same arguments that having stability is better than a potential fail. Like your return, your risk analysis is not right. So I think we can all agree this isn't a surefire win, and we can hopefully all agree that hopefully everything doesn't go into the toilet. I don't know.
Hope is not a strategy, Josh.
Yeah, it is.
I was just gonna say the last thing I was gonna say was the timing is interesting because if he's already signed a 2-year extension, which you just informed me of, and this is a 2-year extension beyond that, it's like, why wouldn't you give him one more year to see what he could do with a full media share in the Big 12 that we're getting this year, and see, just see how he manages that, right? Like if the one thing that is kind of his thing is money and management of money and getting more money, like why not give a little bit of time while we're receiving the full share, to see how things change or build, or whatever word you want to put in there, to kind of like understand what our future looks like under his tenure, and before you give him another 2 years. I don't know. The timing of it is a little bit odd, but I guess it is what it is. We'll have to see how he goes forward with with this full media share, and hopefully we see some good things.
Yeah, so we got three yeses based on stability and one no if we were going to do an informal poll, and that's me, right? I'm the
no. I said no.
Oh, you said no too?
Yeah.
You weren't listening. I said no.
Yeah.
Well, I heard you say the stability thing and stuff, so I assumed you were going that way. Okay, so we're 2-2. All right, so the top half of your screen says no to TMO, and the bottom half says yes, but begrudgingly. So it's an interesting thing. It's an interesting move for UCF, because I think it kind of locks them in. The only other reason that I would do that as a CEO is if he had a really good offer and he told you he was going to leave, and it sweetens the pot for us to get a little more dough, kind of like a la Gus, for us. That would be the only thing from a buyout perspective. But for me, I don't think this is the best move for UCF. I understand the stability aspect, especially in the middle of a large project. But we had him under contract for 2 years anyway. So unless it was because, hey, he had a real contract that he could go get, and we needed someone to shepherd this stadium expansion project, then okay, I get it from there. But we'll never know, because we're not in President Cartwright's office. But I do not think that Terry Mohajir is the guy for us to get us beyond where we are today. All right. Another quick informal poll here. What do you guys think about the proposed trophy game with Houston for the space game, which, if we did that, would effectively lock them into our schedule? What do you guys think about doing a trophy game with Houston, and are you okay with them being on our schedule every year as a permanent game?
I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it. I mean, Houston seems to be I know that Cincinnati for a while, but Houston, because of the space ties, like we seem kind of tied to Houston a little bit more, and personally, I'm okay with it. I think it's all trophy games are a little bit kitschy, and they had to start with something. And if you want to create a trophy game with Houston, and obviously make that the space game every year, make it some sort of space themed, event or trophy game around that theme, I'm all for it. I wouldn't say let's try to make up some sort of like random trophy or random theme of the game. Like, let's lean into the whole space theme of it. If that's what it's supposed to be, then I'm okay with it. Because honestly, it's it is what it is. They all have to start somewhere, and Houston's been in our conference for a while, are a conference mate for a while. We haven't necessarily had like amazing battles with them on the football field like we have for a few years with Cincinnati. But if we want to make it a trophy game and play them every year, that's fine by me.
All right. So if you say yes, then I'll add this caveat. Bob Diaco has to design it, because now we actually have a reason.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like I don't want to do a useless thing like that.
Yeah, we have to have an actual countdown clock like he had on his now because it's space themed. I mean, now it makes sense. Back then,
yeah, you're right. The countdown clock would actually finally make sense. Yeah. I'm with you. Okay, we're there. This has got to happen now.
All right, Josh, what do you think? Houston, yes or no?
Why not? I mean, what'll listen? I think most fans who've been around for a while would want a game with the Cows every year, but that's just not happening because they schedule stupidly sometimes. I wouldn't mind having something every year with
Hey, to
Cincinnati because
be
I
the
think
best, you have to lose to the best, right?
yes,
I mean,
they're
that's all.
almost an over in that entire graphic. If you don't know
Oh
what
my
that
God, I
graphic
love
is,
the update of that
we got
graphic every time they post it.
yeah, we gotta probably post that sometime. So I will say this: I feel like Cincinnati is more of a rival out of circumstance and history and competitiveness in both basketball and football because they usually have our number, and then sometimes and then back and forth.
I would say
Houston,
I would
I
say
like the idea.
Josh, I would say recent because we did have
Oh yeah,
Houston went back in Conference USA and Casey Keenum days where they were ranked and
oh
we beat
yeah,
them and then
yeah.
I can't remember the other kid's name. Greg
I know
Ward
who you're
was it
talking about.
Ward who fumbled across the
Yeah, Ward the
yeah
third or whatever his
yeah
last.
yeah Ward. So we've had some historical
Yeah,
games, but I think with
I
Cincinnati
agree.
was because we were fighting for the top of the AAC and a playoff contention.
Yeah,
And at the end there, Houston wasn't anywhere close to it. In the last 4 or 5 years, it was us and Cincinnati
yeah.
basically at the top.
Well, I mean, when we're at that tournament and we want to beat Cincinnati to get them to go home, like I felt like I cared about that game. If it
Well,
was Houston,
Cincinnati has fans who give a
they do.
crap and will talk on Twitter and
That's
will
fair. I'm engaged.
talk crap and be
I,
engaged at the games where
I'm
Houston
I
doesn't.
am
They don't
open.
have any fans for
I, I
football.
am I am open. I think it's why not? The truth is, why not? I don't. If we have to play them every year, sure, why not? It's an easy game to get into and out of if we had to.
All right. What do you think, Alan?
Yeah, I'm in the same boat as Josh. I mean, it's kind of a why not situation. And definitely like I'm always going to be a fan of keeping some sort of history and tradition alive. And it's not to say we can't create new history and new great series with some of these Big 12 teams that we're in the conference with now that we had never played until the last couple of years. But that's going to be a long time. And just like Ben said, we've been in the same conference with Houston going back what 3 conferences now at least with CUSA and American and now the Big 12. So I mean, in our history, I think they're like number 3 or number 4 for the most amount of games we played against. So yeah, like why not? I mean, it's not like it's really taking away from some super big marquee game like if Texas or Oklahoma were still in the conference. So I like it. I'm cool with it. And yeah, I'd rather it be like a USF we have an annual thing with, but like there's that space
Owls,
tied
don't say
to
that.
I said it lowercase, so don't worry. So yeah, either way, there's a that space tie, and yeah, so I'm cool with it. I mean, I wouldn't care if we didn't do it, but I think it's cool that we're doing it.
Yeah, so I think for me, when it comes to Houston and rivalry games, so number one, let me put this out there. The New York Times, actually, this was one of the other things I was going to say. They said that the War on I-4 checks in at number 97 of the top 100 rivalries in college football. So that was interesting.
Number
That being
97.
I
97
know.
of top
They
100.
couldn't even give a 97.
Let's see.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's yeah. I
Well,
will.
I mean, think about it this way: there's how many FBS teams? There's like there's 130 or some. So you
Mhm.
multiply that by the number of combinations that you could have. So I mean, it's okay. I mean, but
What
yeah,
does the New York Times know about college football, anyways?
I don't know. That with that said, when it comes to Houston, the way I look at it is any rivalry we decide to attach our name to needs to help us elevate ourselves either within the conference profile or the next step, right? Houston football does not do that. Now, that may change because of where the dollars are being spent, but traditionally they've spent it on basketball and not on football, right? So to me, I would much rather, if it's going to be a locked in game, right, a yearly annual game for a rivalry game, I'd much rather either associate myself with a brand that's already been more successful or has more longevity, or one that has the potential to be escalated into whatever the next power program is, because I think that adds value to it. So do I like the idea of a space game? Yeah, my undergrad was aerospace engineering. I love space. Like, I love that theme, right? Houston really hasn't claimed that as part of their identity for college football for a long time. So they're kind of riding our coattails. I'd be okay with it. I just don't want it to be a permanent crossover game. And that's just my thing, because it takes an opportunity from another traditionally more historic Big 12 program with a bigger name that we could take advantage of in football. So that's how I look at it. But yeah, if it is, they have to consult Bob Diaco, and there has to be a countdown clock, like one of those digital red countdown clocks with I don't even remember what you call them anymore. The little digital red lights that light up, for that to happen, for it to work for me.
Well, shouldn't we just say that we missed the war on I-4 though? Like, I mean, we should bring that. I mean, I know that it's a higher risk for us now because they're.
I don't care about the risk. It's just whether it can be competitive.
We need to do that. It just needs to become permanent. Like Florida State was made permanent back in the day. Like, it just needs to happen. Tebow can get back in my good graces if he gets that.
I'd rather do that with Miami than I would with the Cows.
No, I wouldn't. It's not. I wouldn't, man. I just I miss the war on I-4. Like, it's just the downs if you lose and the highs when you win. Like, I don't care where they are as a program. It's always fun to beat the Cows.
I agree.
Well, all right. So on that note, let's talk about a little bit of other interesting news. UCF is negotiating right now potentially to be a college kickoff classic game, but not in Ireland. UAE. What do you guys think about playing a college football classic kickoff in the UAE? I don't think anybody would make that trip, number one.
Oh, I think there would be people who would, absolutely, but I'm hoping it's actually Mexico City and we're all getting our stars aligned, because there was a hint of having a college football games in Mexico or City specifically, or in Mexico. I'm pretty sure it was Mexico City. So that would be great, because I think a ton of people would go to that. I think a ton of people from the U.S. and Mexico would go for that. They love having football games there. It's always pretty packed when it's an NFL game. UAE, I get it. They're probably trying to do the same thing that everyone else is doing, getting the college football games there, and then hopefully getting the NFL games there. You know, how the London games, Germany, and all that. I don't know, man. I that's a no for me, dog. I don't know if there's enough money. I don't know if there's enough money.
Well, there is going to be enough money, and they'll probably build an indoor stadium with air conditioning, right? But like, there will be enough money from the UAE side.
Remember, won't be the problem, right?
No, not their money. Are we willing to?
No, we won't be there. It won't be us. It'll be the locals, who want to go to an American college football game. That will, half the side will have UCF colors on, and the other half will have whoever the opponent would be. But I feel like, from a fan experience perspective, I don't think there's very many people that would go. UAE is cool, and their whole claim to fame, they're trying to diversify their own money, and they're trying to become like a sports mecca. So they bought into soccer, and they bought into golf and a bunch of other stuff. So I see what they're trying to do. For me, I wouldn't go. I mean, it'd be kind of cool to be, all right, we're the first ones to do it. That would be kind of cool. But I don't think anybody would go unless you're a mega booster.
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't be going, but I just looked up the time difference, and I don't know what
Dude, a
time.
plane ride for you for that long, you'd have to have
You have one seat,
I've been
two
to
seats.
I've been to China twice, and it's not that trip is not fun for a guy like me. But yeah, but just going, yeah, going as is out of the question for me. I'm more curious of like what time the game would be on in the U.S. and there, considering it's an 8-hour time difference. It's just a little bit strange there, but it obviously would be probably the super early morning, just like a lot of the other games are for the NFL London games and stuff like that. But yeah, it's I don't know if I'm down for that.
The only reason I would go is because I've heard that folks there, when their Lamborghinis need an oil change, they just park them on the side of the road. So if I could pick one up and like
Yeah,
ship it back,
get
I
rid of
mean,
it.
that might make it worth it. I'm just saying, I could be like the redneck tow truck crew, like picking up Lamborghinis on the side of the road. I'd be down for that. So it's a big no for me, dog, too. But it will probably pay a lot, so UCF should do it if it pays enough. Okay. Last thing I kind of want to talk about this before we move on to a little UCF baseball is, and actually, you know what? I'll save this for next week because it's NIL related and we're already an hour and 25 in and we need to keep it under 2. So let me talk about this real quick. One thing to keep your eye on for UCF hoops is, and this is for women's basketball, one of the top and the number one, I think, forward recruit in the entire country for women's basketball is Missy Odom. And there's been some talk about her because she hasn't been on campus yet, but there's been some talk about her coming to us. And now she's whittled it down to her top 9. And UCF is in her top 9 with all the major basketball brands. The only advantage we have is that Walter Pitts, who's on the UCF coaching staff, is her godfather. So there may be an opportunity to bring her in and maybe build around her. The only problem is in the NIL era is a lot of the women's basketball players now are starting to make some decent money. And I don't know if we have enough money to spend on players like that. So something to keep an eye on, but we definitely are in the mix for her. And she's planning a visit soon. Next, I just want to go ahead and we'll touch on UCF baseball. Ben, you've got a little bit for us on the Knights in the MLB draft and where they landed. So can you give us a little bit of information there?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we actually had the MLB draft started early last night, and the first 3 rounds were last night, and the later rounds continued today. And so, actually, our very own Antonio Jimenez was drafted in the 3rd round by the New York Mets, and so it's a pretty high draft pick. I haven't looked at all of our top draft picks in UCF history to know where that ranks, but 3rd round is pretty special. And you've heard me say on this podcast, certainly in the group chat of the TK1 group chat, I've been talking about Jimenez all year as being a big league shortstop, and so I'm excited to see him get his opportunity. I'll certainly miss him in a UCF uniform, but his 1 year at UCF, I definitely saw a lot of great flashes, and clearly the scouts in the MLB saw the same thing. So he goes 3rd round to the Mets. And then today, we've got 4 more drafted, where Idian Espinal went the 10th round to the Detroit Tigers. So, he was a big time favorite of us here at this podcast. And so it's great to see him get recognized. Detroit Tigers in the 10th round. We had 2 players go in the 13th round, Alex Galvan went to the Arizona Diamondbacks. Dylan King went to the Cincinnati Reds. And then one of our relief pitchers, Angelo Smith, went in the 17th round to the LA Angels. So 2 pitchers, 3 position players went in the MLB draft. Now, those in the later round, I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think everyone on this list is a junior except for Dylan King, I believe. I'd have to look up that and make sure. I believe everyone's a junior except for Dylan King. So, could they come back? Obviously, we know Jimenez is not coming back in the 3rd round. But Espinal, Galvan, King, and potentially Smith, could go for one more year in college, hopefully UCF, and try to improve their draft stock next season. So that's kind of how that works. They can certainly come back, but it's pretty cool to see them represented in the MLB draft with 5 players drafted. That just helps our overall. Now, granted, there's 20 rounds in the MLB draft, I believe, but still having 5 more players added to that big wall in the UCF facility that shows all of our players that got drafted. It's it's part of it, and I'm happy for these guys.
Yeah, for me, one of the things you have to remember is just like when high school kids get drafted in these rounds, right? The higher rounds are the more likely to get picked up and make it to up the ranks and make it to the show. And I think Antonio Jimenez going in the 3rd round to the Mets, it shows that they see a lot of value in him. And I think he's a guy that will probably be one of the next guys that make it to the show. Eden Espinal, he's a good hitter. So I think that's them taking a flyer on him. Alex Galvan, I watched him a lot last year. He projects more of as a closer type guy. So it'll be a little bit longer for him to get to the show if he gets there. Dylan King, I hope he succeeds because it's my Reds. So either it's money for us when we trade him or he makes it into a Reds uniform. Good hitter, solid baseball player. Let's see how he develops. And Angelo Smith, if you guys don't remember who Angelo Smith was, he was a closer for us. He did play, not a closer. He was a mid-game type guy for the most part. He did start a few games, midweek games, but he had heat. So this is them taking a flyer on somebody who has a fastball that was over. It was like 102, 103. He was clipping with the radar gun. So this is them taking a flyer on him. He's got to add some pitches to his and command to his arsenal. But so of all of those guys, I think Jimenez definitely will probably make the show. I think SB has a shot at it, and I'm hoping Dylan moves up. Obviously, I hope all of them make it, right? But I think those are the 3 that probably have the best opportunity to do so.
Yeah, Galvan, because of his size, I think has a shot of maybe progressing to that level. It's just he's got such a big frame. Potentially if he can increase his velocity just a touch. I mean, he does throw hard, so I don't want to knock that. But and then maybe gain a little bit more stuff on his pitches. I think there's a chance for him as well, just because of his larger frame. So we'll see.
All right. That being said, let's go ahead and swim it to our listener love section. So Eric has been posting in our comments here. Thank you, Eric. That's Eric Edwards 6421 on YouTube. He says, "Hey Roger, have you guys talked about the 16-team playoff in any of your recent podcasts? Did you figure out the figures, by the way? The choices as of July 13th are 5 conference champs and 11 at large, determined by the committee versus 4-4-2-2-1-3. So now what are your opinions of the 2? Personally, I hate the 5-11 because I don't want the committee picking. And there's more to it, but I'm just going to leave it at that. Actually, we had with another listener / viewer, we had quite the discussion on that. And I think it was like 2 or 3 episodes ago. To me, I think the smart play right now is the 5 and 11. I think that the ACC will, as I mentioned earlier, will probably not exist as it does today in after 2030. And if the ACC goes away, or at least gets diminished like the Pac-12 did, and we end up with 3, then I think at that point is when you start pulling the trigger. Terry Mohajir has come out; he said 5-11, and I think that's the right move for now, because it doesn't lock in that higher amount for the Big Ten and the SEC for now. And I think that the ACC will not be on the table. As I'd also mentioned, one of the things that has been going through the governance for the autonomy conferences is the fact that they're changing the weighting of the voting with the autonomy conferences. And the goal with that is not all 4 autonomy conferences have to approve something to move forward. They only need 3 out of 4. So that, again, to me is a nod to say, hey, ACC, you may not be around the next go round. And if FSU leaves, as they've talked about, Clemson leaves, as they've talked about, sure, Miami gets a landing spot somewhere. The ACC, I think, gets demoted effectively and gets ripped apart for North Carolina State and North Carolina and those other teams. And I think once those 5 leave, the ACC essentially, Tobacco Road no longer owns the ACC. I think they realize that they don't get to have their own insulated world over there. And I do think we're going to go to 3 conferences at the next go round. So I think for us, best move is stick 5-11 and then stick the landing then.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Josh. I didn't think you were
I was going to say, part of me wants to get guarantees, but the reality is, as long as we get a fair shake on the committee level, which we're not. But if can we get a fair enough shake where we can get 2 people in most of the time? And is the question. And if the answer is yes, then great. It's better. If we have 3 teams that really just dominate, I'd rather have that than just have to hope we get that last one in for the one. So I will say that it's probably the best move for now. Not too happy about it, but this loops all the way back to if there's only 3 autonomy conferences, do we have the person at the helm to make sure we're still a part of that? But anyway, I think this is the right move. Let's get to 16. We want to see more football, and you can't even go I have to go to my finals. No, you're professional athletes at this point.
All right. Let's give a quick shout out to some of our new folks that have joined the show. So shout out to David Ray. Again, I can't shout all of you out, only those that don't hide your usernames on what you follow. And so shout out to David Ray, new sub. Shout out to Sam O'Hay Fritz, Armchair Olympian, and NBA Night Boy. Shout out to all of you. Again, if you'll do us a favor, subscribe, like, share, follow on all of our channels. That helps us grow and helps us get out to more people. Love some of these names. Armchair Olympian, that's definitely me right now. And Oh Hey Fritz, for sure. And then you can't go wrong with NBA Night Boy. So thank you all for...
Hysterical, by the way. Shout out to him. He's so funny. I've reposted him so many times on Instagram. Like, he just, like last year, the memes he put out after UCF would lose games were just great. So I got to shout out him.
All right. Well, shout out to all of them, and tell your friends. We do this for you, and love it when you participate in the show, like Eric has, and comment on the videos as well. All right. Next, let's go ahead and swiv it once again.
Swiv it.
To Josh's end of show here, because he's got 2 segments here. He's got Josh's sometimes funny fact of the week. Josh, take it away.
Always be closing. So, hey, let me do one quick side fact. Who knows what NBA actually stands for in that context?
In his screen name, or just National Basketball?
That's an allusion to something. So, do you know what that stands for? Anyone?
I thought it was basketball as well. I don't know.
Right.
More than likely, because it's Never Broke Again. That's a hip hop reference. I'm assuming, and if it's NBA Nightboy, if I'm wrong, at me online, and I'll take that back. Let's get back to the UCF stuff. That is sometimes funny. And I'm hoping you got last week's, which maybe was in the show notes or not. This is a really easy one, I think, and something I like 99% of the people don't know. You might not know this, but UCF has a bicentennial time capsule on campus right now. When will that time capsule be opened?
Well, if it's bicentennial, like the year, or are we talking about the number of years?
You can give me the year. You can give me the year. You don't need to give me the exact date.
I'm going to say 2076.
Okay. Alan's looking it up, so that's good.
No, I have no. I'm not even guessing.
No, I know.
Yeah,
just joshing.
Ben?
20. I'll just Price is Right it and go 20. No, I'll go 65. No, 2065. I don't know.
Okay.
Well, the bicentennial was 1976, which is why I went with 100 years. But what do you think, Josh?
I know. Alan, you got one?
24.
24. So you say it's already been opened. So according to the Central Florida Future, a time capsule is buried on December 1st, 1976, and is set to be open December 1st, 2026. So next year.
So that would make Alan closest to the pin.
Yeah, he does get that. There's 55 different items in there, including FTU catalogs, a letter to the future president of UCF. I'd love to see that. And one of Dr. Milliken's pipes. It was honored as President Charles Milliken's 10th year as university president. It's in front of Milliken Hall and sealed with the chemical argon and cemented for protection. So yeah, that'll be probably big news, or big enough UCF local,
and for their pleasure, right?
Yeah.
This article that you found this in, did it say who contributed to the time capsule? Like, did it list the names of people or students or faculty or whatever?
No, it didn't. That's all we got. What you hear is what you get. That's all I saw in that article.
I'm just curious. I'm pretty sure my grandmother worked for UCF during that time, so it was just an interesting.
How
I'm
tall?
Just wondering.
How tall was she, Ben?
Oh, my grandmother? I don't know. She was probably like 5'7", 5'8".
Okay,
pretty tall.
That's still tall, especially during that time.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a really cool. It was I will say this article is from nicholsonstudentmedia.com, and it's a really it's an older, I don't say older, it's like a 4-year-old article, but this is great stuff. I think I might be running out of things from it, so I might have to find some more stuff. But we're getting close to sports season, so I can actually have interesting facts about sports teams. So sports ball.
All right, let's go ahead and it yet again to, since Alan was a little early with his which
was our fault.
Premature reporting. It's okay. It
was great. Premature reporting. I think there's a drug for that now, Alan. Yeah. I don't know. But let's talk about the quick update on other UCF sports that Alan does not watch.
Yeah, that'd be maybe because Gold Chew. Hey, softball yet again signs a transfer this week. Actually, there's 2. Which is amazing. And we've actually had 3 softball transfers for the last 3 weeks. Callista Birkenstock.
All right, let's pause there. I really hope that she's like some sort of like relationship to Birkenstock.
I listen. You chopped me right off at the like maybe relation. Come on, but I saw that and I'm like, that's. I will say, Callista, you have a heck of a name. That's a phenomenal name. That is
Callista Birkenstock.
Callista Birkenstock. That's a phenomenal name. She's an outfielder, and of course, she's phenomenal because she's a native New Yorker.
Wow. Alan got so mad he just left. Dude, this is how little he cares about the other UCF sports. Is he
funny.
just leaves mid-show.
That's funny. So yeah, she's a native New Yorker, rising sophomore from Florida Gulf Coast University. She had a good amount of at-bats last year, but she was a frequent pinch runner and stole 23 bases last year, which would have been number 1 on UCF's team if she did that here. The transfer number 4 on the year is from Tennessee State. Catcher infielder Onika Spencer. She's joining for her senior campaign. She's been like OVV in the all OVV teams and OVCs of the Valley Conference.
She's a slugger.
Yeah. She looks like grown woman energy. Like, it's wonderful. And I will tell you, both of them have said the same thing, and I don't think this is staged. Like, every single transfer is talking about how good our coaching staff is, how real they are with them, giving them very specific things they want to work on. So I don't think one time, it's the 4th time in 3 weeks. It's what it is. So, and it's wonderful. I love hearing that, because it means that the team is putting in good work. The coaches are putting in good work, and hopefully we have a pretty good season. We'll see what happens. So here goes. Men's soccer, definitely a sport that Alan doesn't watch to the point where he'll just jump off the show. They added 7 new people, and they are from across the world. Costa Rica, from where they grew up. Let's say that, because some of them transferred like to Virginia Tech and other local in the States. But we're talking Costa Rica, Liberia, Kenya, France, England, and then we go back to the U.S. with Alabama and Indiana, the states thereof. And to save time, because we're getting tight, and I apologize in advance if I butcher any of your names. We have Mateus De Jesus, Finn Callaway, and we're going in reverse order from Indiana back all the way to Costa Rica. Finn Callaway, Jem Hewlett, Malik Thea, Ken Muendo, Abraham Monsi, and Marcelo Lacayo. It's like we got like an entire team almost. Like, you have a starting 11. There's more than half of your starting team. Probably more than that, obviously, but we added a lot of people in men's soccer in the last week, and there's some. I will say there's some. There's a side thing on a tennis schedule. There's a new tennis schedule you can look at in UCFnights.com. There you go. I said something about it. Oh, Ben.
Wow, man.
Come on, man.
So I will say this: you did a pretty good job with those, Josh.
There was like 1 or 2. I'm like, and well, again, I will say, until I'm blue in the face, DeSalvo, someone, can you please get on your media releases the pronunciations of people's names, so I don't have to put it into a translator and hope I get it right.
Thank you. The only one, Malik Chaw, is how you would say that.
Malik Chaw?
Yeah, Chaw.
Okay, thank you.
Just like
other
Chim.
than that, he's really good. Yeah, like Chim.
Yeah, we knew him when.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So
when I can get that, I know a bunch of wins.
So the good news is Ben will, as part of our preview and march to the season, we will start doing some more specific football specific team related stuff. And Ben will finally give us his basketball assessment for the new team.
Oh yeah. I mean, who knows? We don't know if we have a finalized roster yet. So
yeah, I know. Do we have 5 people on the roster yet? I mean,
hold down the suspense.
All right. So thank you, everybody. And again, next week I will bring up the NIL stuff, because there is some important NIL things that have happened. For example, the lawyers that were involved got paid $800 million. That should tell you how much money is out there on that. The fact that Scott Frost made some comments on the front-loaded NIL contracts that he's battling against now. That Congress is finally getting involved and has put forth a bill with regard to regulating some of these agents and some other things that are interesting. So we'll talk about that next week as well. But outside of that, thank you all for joining us. Make sure to like, follow, subscribe. Make sure to tell your friends. We appreciate each and every one of you. Go Knights, and
Charge on.
Charge on, baby.
Yeah, so I'm telling you, John Walker, 55 from Kissimmee.